I know something is possible, then I know I can do it, right? So if he can do it, I can do it too, right? And that's true for everybody listening. Like there's 4 truths to getting anything you want in life. Number 1 is knowing it's possible. Number 2 is believing in yourself, right? Number 3 is you take massive action. And of course, you never quit.
Our next guest on the pod is a Canadian entrepreneur and a real estate developer. But in the past few years, he's gone from 0 to 100, working on his body, mindset, relationship, and businesses that all intertwine for success. He's raised $100,000 running a 100-miler. He's the one of 700 people in the world to finish one of the world's toughest triathlons. And recently, a 50-miler put him in the hospital and almost took his life. We are wicked excited to welcome Brady Mcdonald to the On the Runs podcast. Brady, what's up, dude?
Hell yeah. Excited to be here, guys. Excited to share with you and pour into your listeners. Let's go.
We are so excited to have you, Brady. I mean, I love the teasers that Eric gives because he already touched upon a bunch of things that are just blowing my mind. So I'm very excited to get to know you better. But let's figure out where are you joining us from? I think he said you're Canadian. Where in Canada?
Yeah, so we're Canadian. We're about an hour and a half north of Toronto. We're actually, in 2020, we put an island property on our vision board, and we officially here. We live here for 2 months.
Amazing.
And the 10 months of the year, we're actually in Florida now. So, yeah, so we're just
very cool.
Huge vision board people because this shit just becomes real. I mean, you obviously have to take action, but yeah.
I'm actually working on my first ever vision board. Maybe I'll have questions for you later, but I got one in the works for a few other things. We actually connected and we were chatting for the first time. I don't remember. I think you found us, or maybe it was me, but you were towing a trailer from Florida to Canada, not a trailer, a boat. And I was like, I'm like digging in now. Who's this guy towing a boat from Florida to Canada?
That sounds so stressful. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So this is literally an island. So we live, it's like 5-minute boat ride to our island. And then, so everything comes over by boat. We've got 2 boats. We actually brought 2 up from Florida. And yeah, it's great. I mean, we're just kind of finishing building it. We don't have power yet. That's why I'm sweating. If you can see beads of sweat down my face, that's why. But it's great.
Well, it's a good look on you, so you got that going for you, especially since we know you're this killer athlete. So
yeah, I can handle the heat. Well, if we're going to talk about the story that I almost died, apparently I can't handle the heat.
Spoiler alert.
We'll get there. Just remember the one On the Runs rule: spare no details.
Yeah.
One thing we like to do, though, is we like to get to know you. So we know you're from Canada. Give us like the quick rundown. I know you're kind of psycho because you were a goalie and goalies are just crazy. And my dad was probably not crazy enough to let me actually do it. I wanted to be. And I don't know if you can tell. I had a little incident today and my hockey tooth broke.
You couldn't tell. Didn't even notice.
Oh, good.
He pulls it off well.
I can't stop smiling. That's the problem.
It's so good.
Yeah. And
Don't hide it, man. Show it off.
So you're saying save myself the money, don't get it fixed tomorrow.
Dude, it is. Yeah, it's like it gets attention, right? All attention's good attention.
It's definitely. It's like 95 degrees here today, and I went for a 3.5-mile run, and I posted, broke my fake tooth, instant 15% extra airflow.
Yeah.
That's not wrong.
Your blood oxygen is 105% now.
Yes. It's just everything goes up there. Think of the positives. So it's a beauty though.
That's great.
So give us the lowdown. Tell us about Brady. Give us like your growing up story.
Yeah, you definitely did some research to find out it was a goalie. So I would say let's go back to bat actually. So 11 years old, grew up in small town Ontario, Canada. My parents were paycheck to paycheck. At 11, they actually got a divorce. And it was like, from that moment on, I basically have this childhood that I can't remember. So I was just in protective mode. And so there was no extra money. And to the hockey thing is obviously hockey's expensive and my parents weren't going to pay for it. So I started Brady's lawn care and snow removal at 11 years old. And so I shoveled snow from 5 a.m. till school. And that's what I did, right? I mean, that's how I got my entrepreneurial bug. Of just getting, if you want something, you just get it in life, right? It's just, that's still true today for every single person here that's listening. So getting a little bit older, I ended up losing my license for drinking and driving at 16. That was pretty stupid. And my parents, I was living at my mom's house, and they're like, son, you got to grow up. And so the most successful people my family knew were forest firefighters in Northern Ontario. So they thought, okay, hey, let's send this kid down this path who likes to be outside. You should go to school for forestry. So I did that. I went to school for forestry at 17. I ended up meeting a guy who worked for this power company, and he had a brand new truck and a full case of beer. He's making 6 figures. And the one thing about me is, like, if I know something is possible, then I know I can do it, right? So if he can do it, I can do it too. Right. And that's true for everybody listening. Like, there's 4 truths to getting anything you want in life. Number 1 is knowing it's possible. Number 2 is believing in yourself. Right. Number 3 is you take massive action. And of course, you never quit. And so I went out and got that job. Right. And so I quit school in between first year, second year, got this job, and I became a utility arborist. And I eventually finished my apprenticeship and became an instructor. And so I was essentially climbing or teaching men and women how to climb trees and rope trees down around the hydrolons and not kill themselves. And, I met my wife when I was about 23 years old. She was 25, a little bit older. She's not listening, so I'll say that she chased me for years, right? It was actually the other way around. But we were friends for many years. And eventually we got together and we were engaged within 3 months. And I think we ended up getting married sometime around, I think I was 28 years old. So, I was in this career, doing this corporate world. And I was at about year 12 in. So I was about 30 years old. I was just like kind of tapped out. I felt like I had limited income potential, limited personal development, right? Like I was just at the ceiling. I'm like, what's next? I'm kind of bored here. And so we started looking for, other ways to make money, and started looking into storage and like buying franchises and different things. And we met a guy who was a full-time real estate investor. And at that point, it was in June. It was just the start of summer, and he'd already bought like 16 properties. And again, back to that thing, if he can do it, I can do it, right? So we literally read a book and, did a bunch of research and eventually bought a property, and we bird it. So that's just where you buy it, you renovate it, you refinance it, and you repeat that process. And that was the start of our new company. So we started BK Real Estate Investing. And of course I was working full time, but that turned into a full-time thing. And we started doing like 8 deals the first year, about 20 deals the second year.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm working full time. Right. So we started in 2015, 2017 to quit the job. Right. And I was doing pretty good. Like it was a 6-figure job. And, and that was essentially, that's kind of what we did for the next, still today. That was kind of how we got our, went to full-time real estate investors. And so it was like a work hard, play hard. Now, talking about vision boards, we started our first vision board in 2015, and it was literally work hard, play hard. So small town Ontario, right? What do? You work hard, you play hard. And what that does is like you're drinking on the weekends and socializing and having a lot of fun. And, and that kind of went on for years, right? I mean, and it was eventually 2021 when I was just like, I'm exhausted. Like, we've got the big boat. We've got this 53-foot boat where we've done the Bahamas in the boat. We did all these things that people retire to do. We did it already. And, but I was still like, I was so unfulfilled though. Right. I mean, and I just was tired. And that's kind of when I eventually did the 75-day hard. And that was the first time I got in my body, the first time I ever got sober. And was the first time I was actually like, I love myself. Right. And, and then, the story goes on quite a bit there. Maybe I'll pause because I feel like I've been talking for a while.
Well, we love to hear you talk. So during your whole business ventures, what were you doing to stay active? I mean, you had that whole career before of being an arborist, which is that's crazy. I mean, I wouldn't even think of that as a job. So was that like your main focus for just keeping active, or were you doing other stuff on the side?
So I never worked out really until I became an entrepreneur, and I, I stopped, being physically active in the job, and I was like 30, and my back started hurting, and I probably had a beer belly and everything else. And I then hired a personal trainer at that point. And so I'd go to the gym 3 days a week, hire out my accountability essentially. Right. But that's still extremely average in my opinion. Like 3 days a week is not I know this now, right? I thought I was doing great. but like 3 days a week is not a habit. And it was just like enough to maybe make the back pain not happen. Right. But yeah, so I was doing that for years until I did the 75-day hard. And then I really realized, holy, like when you do this more days than not, like 5 to 6 days a week, right? That's medicine for my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it solves a lot of the things that, we solve our own problems, like the anxieties go away and they're like, just the different pressures. And that was the first time that I'm like, oh, I need to do this more often. And then I said, and so when I did the 75 hard, that was the first time I quit drinking. And then I made the connection. But once you are finished that thing, right, you just kind of go back to normal life, right? And like all the old habits start to creep back in.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to realize this because I was also hanging around the same people, right? And I started making a connection to the people I'm hanging around. So at that point, I'm like, this was in the fall of 2022. I knew I had to get back into fitness and doing something hard, right? I needed to put something on the calendar. And that's when I signed up for my very first half Ironman. And, I'd never swam like that before, never ran like that, never biked like that. But I hired a coach, right? I'm a huge proponent in hiring somebody that can help you, get through anything in life ultimately. But yeah, and it was great. I mean, I backed off the booze. I filled the socializing void with fitness, and I had the same results: mental clarity, courage, confidence, and obviously my body transformed too, that I did with the 75-day hard. And it was great at first experience, just to set it was like 5 hours and 59 minutes. That was my goal. And, and then I kind of like realized, hey, I can train for a half Ironman and drink and socialize. Because this is what we do, right? We adapt. But eventually, this is a much bigger story. Last March is when I actually quit drinking. And because I really realized, like, there was a death in the family. My dad died. And, he didn't drink since he started drinking when he was 45. Right. And he was so hard on his body just in those years that he ended up dying at 73.
Oh,
and
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thanks. And you know what? There's a lot of lessons from it. And like the reason, I was using alcohol to solve some like the fears in the business that were happening. Like we were like the portfolio was going through a world of hurt when the interest rates went all up, like when they super spiked. And I was using it to, like, a lot of people use alcohol for like make it, to have fun, to socialize, to relax, to chill, to and of course to remove anxiety and to remove fear. And I was sitting there and I'm just like, you know what? Somebody has to make the hard choice here and somebody has to curb it for the family. Because I saw like I'm either going to die at 70 like my dad, and I'm also going to probably pass this on to my kids because we are all a product of our environment, right? That's why it's so critical who you surround yourself with, right? I don't care at what age. But we are influenced. And so I just eventually said, you know what, I'm going to just stop this for my children, my daughters. And yeah, and I quit drinking. And that's when I really got into fitness. That's when I filled the void with socializing and drinking and stuff. I filled it with fitness and I signed up for the first 50 miler.
So to backtrack for just a second, I'm not super familiar with it, but I have heard of, I think like the 30-day hard. So the 75-day hard must just be a longer version of this. But can you break that down for us about what it really entails? Because I know it's eating better, it's exercising more, but it's a lot more than that.
Yeah. So the 75-day hard is 75 days straight. You actually have to work out twice a day. One has to be outside. Okay. So it's all about.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's very inconvenient, right? And it takes like, it's like everything is annoying about it because that's one of the things. Okay, number 2 is you have to stick to a diet. So you can count your macros. It has to be healthy eating. No junk food, no fast food, that type of thing. Right. Okay. And the next one is you have to drink a gallon of water a day, which is one of the hardest things for a lot of people. You have to read 10 pages of personal development book. And the last thing, and when I told my wife that I was thinking about doing this is what she laughed her ass off. And I told her you can't drink. And
so
she's like,
the funny part.
There's no way in hell. She says, like, there's no way in hell you can do that. And to me, it's like, that's what makes something worth doing. Right? It's just like when it's that hard where you fear that you might not have success, that is something that's worth going after.
I still
Right? 'Cause
think it's
that's where
worthwhile that you jumped into it in the first place. You said, "Hey, I think I can do this. Why not give it a shot?" And you clearly did very well with it. So I applaud you for giving it the first shot and jumping in.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and the thing about the challenge is like it's realistically, you know, once people listen to it, they'll probably recognize it now. It's that omnipresence, like it's kind of everywhere. But so one of the things that we did is it's actually most people that start it will fail or quit within the first week. It's that hard. It's that inconvenient. But when we started the 0 to 100 day challenge, it's similar. So you have to work out once a day for 45 minutes, right?
Mhm.
And so 2 days a week, you can actually miss it and double up on 2 other days. So
Okay.
it's like it's for real people, but you know, it gives you the same results. So it's gonna it's gonna really build those no the daily habits essentially, right? So the next thing is that you have to eat healthy, no junk food, no fast food, and no alcohol is another big factor because it's a huge thing in just, you know, becoming great at life, in my opinion anyway. And then the last thing is just simply preparing for the next day. So taking the time, scheduling your workout in your calendar, whether it's a run or you're going to the gym or you're doing body weight workouts, and knowing what you're going to eat and making sure you get enough sleep, right? Like that is so critical. And that's what, you know, a lot of people have a problem with alcohol, and that's actually the problem with alcohol, right? Is that it destroys or actually removes all REM sleep that you would possibly get in a night. And so the alcohol is not the problem. I like to just talk about that once in a while because it helps change the relationship with it on why sometimes we shouldn't drink, because it's not the booze. It's actually that you do not get REM sleep, right?
I've found that quite a few times myself.
Yeah.
You just don't
Erica
feel
values
good in
her
the
sleep.
morning. Oh, I do value my sleep, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I do admit it does not help with that. So
A lot of us think that it does. A lot of us think that, you know, it helps me get to sleep, which it does.
well, it
right?
passes you out, but then what do you
yeah.
do? Like it's
Yeah.
just
That's
black.
true, because you all those people are like, oh, I just want 1 or 2 or a glass of scotch or something. And I'm not. I'm more of a social drinker. My sleep problem isn't drinking; it's 3-year-old twins. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, you've got twins, dude.
Yeah.
And 3 years old. We've got a 3-year-old, and one's enough.
Yeah, and I have an 8-year-old daughter to boot, you know, before them, and now I got the 3-year-old twin boys, monsters. They're amazing,
Wow.
absolutely amazing. But
That's fun.
before the twins, I was doing all the triathlons and the Ironmans, and so I want to ask you, what was that first 70.3 you did?
Puerto Rico.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was Puerto Rico. Yeah, it was very hot. And yeah, it went well though. Like I mean, I trained for 4 months. I put in the work. I did it just sub 6 hours, which was exactly my time or my goal. And it went pretty good. I mean, it was just like that run was excruciatingly hot. I don't even know what the temperature was, but there's this one place I think it's called like Hell's Oven, where you're like running around the water, but like next to this giant wall that's just baking you in there.
Oh.
Yeah, and some of the hills are like those old cobble streets in Taiwan or San
Juan, I think. Yeah.
San Juan, yeah, and they're like insane steep. You're like, yeah, it was crazy, but yeah, it was a very good experience. It was very hard.
Cool. I was at the one in Cozumel as a cruise support, and
Cool.
it was so freaking hot that day. I'm more of a fan of doing the ones in your neck of the woods. I did Mont Tremblant. I'm like, this is perfect.
Cool.
Summer in Canada, perfect running weather. It was great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which year did you do Cozumel crew?
Cozumel, I crewed in 2018.
Oh, cool.
Maybe 17. I think it was 18.
Okay.
But yeah. So my buddy was doing all these Ironmans, and I was his crew, and I was like, this isn't. I watched the local one, and I saw a woman doing it on a Huffy. I'm like, I could do this. I just need to learn how to swim.
Yeah, sure.
So I started training with him as he's Kona ready, and I'm like, let's just survive the swim.
Yeah.
And he did Mont Tremblant, and so I said, when I do a full, I'm going to do it. So I've done like four halves, I think, and then I've done the one full. But it's a lot of fun, and I know you did one yesterday too. We'll get to that. But yeah, man. So you're very successful and driven in business and being an entrepreneur in any kind of field. Like you just go for it. You see someone else do it. You're like, if he can do it, I can do it. So
He's
now
driven
you're
in
living
life.
Yes.
All together.
And you got your vision board and you're like, in a couple of years, we're going to live on an island, and you're doing it. But you realized at one point, okay, I wasn't taking care of myself at either. I was just like working hard and getting what I wanted financially, I guess. You got the big boat, you got the houses, you live in Florida 10 months of the year, you live in Canada for another 2. And then you realize you had to do this. So what was outside of that 70.3, like what was the next challenge? Because you seem driven when you see something, and it's not like your local 5K, like you do some epic hard shit.
Yeah. So when I quit drinking that day, so we were actually in the Exumas on my boat with the family when I decided I was going to quit drinking. And so when I quit drinking, I signed up for a 50 miler in the Keys. It's the Keys 50, same weekend as the Keys 100 miler. And so
you know somebody who's done that, and that's crazy.
Yeah,
It's warm down there.
So hot, yeah. So I trained for 3 months for that. I have a coach. So my coach is, do you know who Jesse Itzler is?
I do, and I would love to talk about him with you later offline. But yeah, he's cool.
So he's super cool. So one of his coach, Chris Hoth, he's won Kona before. So he's my coach. So I talked to Chris. Yeah, so Chris and I start training. Put in the work. I mean, so that was the 50 miler. It was May 20th, a year and a half ago, I guess. And it was 109 degrees Fahrenheit. And we started at like 9:30 or something like that, because the 100 milers start at 5:30 in the morning, in a different spot. Yeah, it was just excruciating. So, we ran the first little bit, there was 3 miles, and then you hit this thing called the 7-mile bridge. And you would think that you're running on this highway and it's like all like ocean and stuff, that it would be cool. And it's like the opposite of that. It's like an oven. The asphalt is just so crazy hot. So I got across that bridge, and now you're like 12 miles in, and it is like, it's now we're 2 hours. So it's probably like 11 o'clock. Right. Mm-hmm. And it is so hot. And so we had like wet rags. I was obviously running with a Solomon backpack with water and electrolyte and stuff in it. And we could see, we had to self-crew it. So you had to hopscotch. Your crew would see you every like 25, 30 minutes. And so we were trying to figure out how to keep the body cool, because it was so frustrating. I had towels over my head and ice bags everywhere, trying to like cool myself down. I'm like, I was getting so frustrated by my 14, 15. I'm like, we need to do something different. I was like, not kind of losing my mind, but I got into a rhythm where I literally grab a bag of ice every 30 minutes. I would put it behind my neck, and I would run. I would do a 4-minute walk, run, 1 minute walk. Mm-hmm. So 4 minutes, I would have it on my neck. 1 minute walk, I'd stick in my growing, right? And then during like 45 seconds into that walk, I would take it, dump it all over my head, and I would zip it back up and put it back on my neck. And I literally did this for the next, 38 miles or whatever it was.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like a machine though. I didn't sit down. I didn't stop. And eventually got into Key West, right? And I was, I didn't really realize, like, I was drinking a lot. I sweat like a mother, like crazy, mm-hmm. right? And, I think we were doing pretty good. But like I got into town and like I was delirious. I didn't know where I was. I got lost. Right, it's the first time you're not on a highway, just straight. And so the crew went to the finish line, and I'm in town, like wandering around town. And it was like a movie. There was a girl that like stuck her head into the second floor of a house and says, "Are you looking for the finish line?" I'm like, "Yeah, where is it?" And she's like, "Go up this street, turn right, go down there." I'm like, "Okay." Like, so I get run. I eventually go across the finish line, and I was like down and out. I was laying there, and I'm like, I was down and out. I was just like so done, right? Mm-hmm. And we waited around for a while, and we waited for probably like an hour and a half, 2 hours, because we were trying to figure out what place I was in. So they told me I finished in 3rd place, which I'm like, hey, that's amazing, right?
First finish, not bad,
right? And so we get into the car. And I'm horizontal in the back of our Expedition. We go to our rental property, and like my wife's trying to feed me and give me stuff. She's calling my coach, and I'm not doing what she's saying, right? And eventually, I get some food in and I just puke. Oh. And she's like, "Okay, get in the thing. I'm taking you to the hospital." And I'm like, at this point, I listened to her. So now she's like, something's really wrong, right? Because I actually listened to her. And so she gets me in the back of the expedition. We're driving to Marathon, Florida. We have to go across that 7-mile bridge. And she gets there, and there's ambulances there. They're on the bridge just because the 100-milers are just getting there. And so she gets out. She's like, and they're like, man, you can't stop her. You got to go. She's like, no, my husband's really in really bad shape. You got to come see him. So they come, the ambulance people come to the back of the vehicle, look at me, and immediately bring the stretcher over, stick me in the ambulance. And so they rushed me to the hospital. They're asking me like who my daughters are. I didn't know. They thought I thought I ran in Canada. You know, they're doing every test in the world. Like they're scanning my brain, scanning my heart. Like, and it was weird feeling. Like I kind of knew where I was, but I was like just out of it. I ended up having rhabdo, rhabdomyolysis, which is essentially where your muscles break down, the protein in your muscles break down and go into your blood.
Oh my gosh.
And then it's really hard, obviously, on your kidneys and your heart. So you can die from that. And severe dehydration. So, you know, just low sodium makes you just like wonky, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so they ended up putting me in the hospital for, I was there for 3 days. And it took me probably by later that day, I was back to normal. Like I was feeling pretty good. But when they were doing more cardiology studies and stuff, and they realized like your heart you have a hole in your heart. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And it was an incidental finding when one side of your heart is like, you know, bigger than the other, and it creates leaky valves. So they're like, you can't do anything anymore. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just getting good. This is what's, you know, turning me into the person I want to become.
Yeah. Right.
And it was terrifying. They're like, no, you can't work out. You can't go to the gym. You can't do anything. The only thing you can do is golf. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. And so, and in 3 weeks, I had 29029, which is the Everesting thing, where you go up 29,000 vertical feet up a mountain. And I'm like, I need to figure this out. They're like, well, you can't until you get cleared by a cardiologist. So, of course, I don't really take no for an answer. I found a cardiologist that would look at me as soon as possible. It was in Florida. And he looked at all of my tests because the doctors in the hospital were like, you need a stress test. You need all this other stuff. And this cardiologist said, you already had a stress test, right?
That's
and
what I was thinking. That whole race was a stress test.
Yeah, your heart performed perfect. So you're good. Go enjoy life. Right?
Yeah.
And so 3 weeks later, I did 29029. But turns out, kind of the really cool thing is I was in the hospital and I was looking at the stats. I was looking at the stats on my phone. And my wife, by the way, was super pissed. She was like, Brady, you're not fucking running ever again. You are like the doctor said, you can play golf. That's the only thing. She's like, she was terrified.
Second opinion.
Right. She was terrified, obviously, because everybody thought I was gone. Right.
Well, that's very scary news to get at any point in your life, but especially after like a harrowing experience like that.
Yeah. And like,
wow.
You know, because of course, like, you know, when it was happening, I was out of it. Like, they were like, you know, she was always,
she must have been
worse.
So scared. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty wild. So anyway, I'm looking at this is the next day. I'm like, it says that I came in first place. So I ended up coming in first place, and that's why they didn't know what place I was in. Like, I'm like, well, at least I came first, honey.
That's a pleasant surprise out of the whole ordeal.
Right? Yeah. So anyway, that was my first long endurance experience. Yeah. And I do have a trophy for it. So.
Nice.
Very
expensive trophy. I think you understood the assignment there. Like you went right with it with the ice down the pants and then over the head. You understood, man. Wow, what a story. And then the whole hole in your heart thing. So when all those doctors are like, you can't do anything again, but then this other guy's like, you already did it all. Like, was that a big sense of relief? Like, yes, I'm good to go. Or were you at all concerned that something like this could happen again?
Yeah, no, I don't think like what would actually happen didn't have anything to do with my heart. It just was like an incidental finding.
Yeah.
And so I was pretty confident that I was going to get clearance, you know, pretty quickly. That's just my internal optimism probably kicking in. But yeah, once I got clearance, like my wife was super pissed that I was doing 29 immediately. Like she's like, take it easy, you know, and then So after I finished 29, that's really where I came up with this like 0 to 100 life philosophy, because
Yes.
I flew right from there to Puerto Rico to hang out with my buddy and one of my very first business coaches. And we were thinking about some different business ideas, and we came up with this, like, because he's got a life by design philosophy where everything he does, everything he relates in business and in personal is like by design. It's not, or like by strategy. It's not by like, that's how he lives his life. And so we created the 0 to 100 because that's essentially how I've lived my life, right? But it's also a way that we can relate, or I can relate all the messaging that I have, right? And whether it's in business or in fitness or, you know, whatever. And so, you know, I was flying back from Puerto Rico, and my coach asked me, okay, Brady, so like, what's next? We got to get something else on the calendar, right? So like, it's just, and I'm a huge proponent. Anybody that's listening, you always have to have something on the calendar, you know, to work towards, right? Like, it's critical. And so, you know, I'm like, Chris, I don't know, man. I'm like, dude, I think I want to run 100 miles and raise $100,000 for children's charity. He's like, dude, I don't know. He's like, that's a lot of money. I'm like, I'll get it. I know how to do that. And he's like, all right, let's go. So that was the next thing. Is 3 months later, we started training for a 100-miler. And so, yeah, it was 3 months training for the 50, 3 months training for 100. And on October 17th of last year, ran 100 miles. I started at 4:30 in the afternoon, ran all night. It was at the Running Man Festival, Jesse's Festival.
I'm glad you brought it up, because I keep seeing this Running Man Festival stuff, and it looks like a super cool time. So yes, tell us about the 100-miler, but also tell us about Running Man. This whole event seems amazing.
Yeah, Running Man's super cool. Like, they have the world's largest sauna right in the center. They've got a 1-mile track around the outside. They've got a massive stage, great speakers, and really it's just great people, right? I mean, this is the place that, you know, if I was single again, I would be going to Running Man Festival. If I want to look for friends, I would be going to Running Man Festival. I'd be going to Ironmans. Like, this is where the best people in the world are, in my opinion, right? Because they do hard shit. And these are the people that you want to be around. And so, yeah, super great experience. Like ice baths, a sauna, massage, and good food and good people. And, you know, it's just great. So, yeah, I asked Jesse if I could run the 100 miles there, and they gave me the all good, the clearance. So, yeah, so I started at 4:30. You know, they were doing all there's the big speeches in the main stage, and I'm just kept on running, and it got dark. We just ran all night long.
So you just did your 100 miles around a track.
A 1-mile track. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
How was that mentally? Just like 1 mile.
Challenge.
I mean, I guess runner's math can't be that hard in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I was using my watch, but yeah, like, I mean, I honestly don't think it really mattered. Like, you get on a mission, right? I mean, for me, now that I have run long distances, I guess, you know, not around a track, I think it probably is better when you're seeing new things. Like, it helps. But yeah, like, probably like 4 or 5 hours in, I was like getting to the point where, you know, I wasn't listening to music. I had a crew with me the whole time. I was always running with somebody. There was always 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 people. And eventually I'm just like, I couldn't talk to them, right? Because, I don't know, I don't listen to music. When you get into that pain cave, it's like, and the wrong song comes on, it's just like completely demotivates you. It'll stop you in your tracks. We've all probably ran and then the wrong song comes on. It's just like ruins the day.
You're like, oh man.
Yeah.
The vibe is dead.
That's kind of what it was like for every sound, including my crew, talking to my crew. And eventually they would just talk to each other, which is super cool. And eventually I'm just like, this was after like 17 hours. So the sun had already rose. I'm just like, I needed to be by myself. All I could do is focus on my feet moving and just try to manage movement, like just like trying to get to that next the next spot. So I ended up running like the first like 5 hours, I ran it straight, and then after that I did my 4 and 1. So for running 4 minutes, walking 1, and yeah, I basically didn't sit down for 22 hours straight and nailed the nutrition, nailed the diet, the hydration. And yeah, 22 hours straight. It was just the hardest thing I'd ever done. And it was really weird and spiritual. Well, really spiritual. So like and I'm not overly a spiritual person, but I'm getting more spiritual now, which is really kind of cool. But like I remember running and just like feeling like all my crew were running with me, and I had this overwhelming sense of love, like almost like bringing tears to my eyes, because like I knew they were just running and they're like angels watching me and like pushing me. It was just the weirdest thing, and it was the very first thing that I felt like there was something else out there that was helping us. And this overwhelming sense of love. And the next day when I finished, it was like after going through that darkness and that pain for that long, like everything in the world became beautiful. Like it was, even that, like you could just find beautifulness in every aspect. The rainy day, the set, everything. You can find good in everything. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that it does. It actually does change you when you do these things, right? For this long time, like it changes how you're wired. And it definitely had changed me. And it was just an ultimately great experience. Great people. And we raised a lot of money.
That is a great point. You did it for a wonderful cause. I know how difficult it is to do 100 miles in general, but the way that you did it just seems so much more difficult because you had nothing but your own thoughts to contend with. So that it's all a mindset thing, and you clearly have it down. I know it's hard to get there sometimes, but once you have that determination, you can get through anything.
Yeah, 100%. It's you 1000%. That's why it's so important to do hard things, right? Because like back to what I said before was like, if you want to accomplish anything in life, you need to believe in yourself. There's nothing more important in life than believing in yourself, because nobody else will believe in you if you don't. Right. And so sometimes you have to trick yourself there. But like oftentimes you actually have to practice believing in yourself. So you actually have to do something that's hard, do something that you may think that you fail. But when you actually accomplish it, right, because you've been consistent, because you put in the work, you're like, damn, it releases this new level of potential that you believe that you can now attain. And so if we do this over and over and over again, all of a sudden there's nothing that's unattainable in life. Right. But it all starts. It doesn't have to be crazy. It could be a 5K, right? For somebody, it could be just, waking up and going to the gym. It could be doing 10 push-ups a day. It just has to be small. It has to be, you have to start, right? But then consistently do something bigger and harder for you.
100%.
Just got to start with the one thing that scares you every day.
Yeah, I love that.
It turns you into a different person.
Yeah, 100%.
I noticed you're really good with words, and you're really good with like kind of like motivating and pumping people up. You're also a professional speaker. I feel it too. And you do a lot of speaking. You do a lot of speaking engagements. How did you get into speaking engagements? And you found like your inner voice there, it seems.
Yeah, I got comfortable speaking in front of people when I was a trainer, when I was teaching men and women how to climb the trees, right? And so I would speak in front of people all the time. And of course, when you know it, it's easy. And so when we started real estate investing, I love helping people, obviously. So when we started real estate investing, we would do these wine and cheese events in our house. And we would invite like 30 people. We would do this all on social media. We would attract all these people. They'd come to our house and we would, have wine and cheese, and we would talk about real estate investing. Because again, the hardest part is starting anything. So, when we were trying to help people get into real estate investing. And so we would, obviously got a lot of experience then. And then that ended up on bigger stages with regards to real estate investing. And but real estate investing doesn't like fuel me. I mean, when we talked about real estate investing, it was about systems and processes and like how to scale it. And it's like, I'm so over that because
didn't have the spark you needed,
I mean,
right?
it just does nothing for me because it's just but when I went down this path and I realized, when I look after my body first, right? Because it was what most people do is like most of us chase the money, right? And like in theory, most people are going to chase the money. They're going to focus on their career. They're going to try to make as much money as possible. And eventually they're going to create some relationships. And eventually they're going to hopefully have a whole bunch of money and they'll be able to work on themselves. They'll be able to spend more time on their mindset and eventually their body. And we have it all backwards. And that's what I realized. I learned that is like, if we actually just focus on ourselves first, right? We can, because, especially with women, I love to use this analogies. Like, who does the mothers look after first? Who do the grandmothers look after first? Most of the time, they look after everybody else, right? They look after the house, they look after the family, the kids, the grandkids, the cooking, and all this stuff. But like when I realize when I look after myself first, I can actually serve everybody better, right?
That
And
makes a
this
lot
is
of sense.
true. And so when I learned this about myself, that I became a better human when I looked after my body, when I wasn't poisoning it with booze, when I was feeding it the right thing, when I was around the right people, because messaging is fuel or poison as well, right? The people you surround yourself, the social media, like everything that goes in your ears, eyes, and mouth is poison or fuel. And so when you can look after your body first, you can only serve everybody else better. And so once I got good, I focused on my wife. I'm like, hey, listen, we need to get you to work on your body 45 minutes a day, right? So it took a while, but she eventually got a trainer and a coach. And then she became this much better person, right? Much happier person, been able to serve the kids and me and the household, everybody that she was going to do anyway better, right? And so I really started connecting all the dots. I'm like, dude, this is the theory. This is what it needs to be. It's the body first philosophy, right? And when I realized this is when you show up, when you do these hard things, people want to be around you. Why is that? That's because you are committed. You do what you say you're going to do, right? You have grit, determination. You're just a good person. You're doing what most people won't do, right? And then, of course, like make money and opportunity does happen. It just happens easier, right? Like you're not chasing it. Money runs when you chase it, which is generally why it's hard to make. Right. But this attracts opportunity. And so when I realized this, I'm like, I need to tell people this. I need to help people. I know all I can do is get them to do the 0 to 100 day challenge. If that's all that we can get them to do, this will change lives because that challenge will get them into their body. That'll make them look after themselves first. Like being selfish is actually the most selfless thing that we can be. Right. And that's really what started inspiring me. I'm like, hey, I need to help people. The easiest way I can help people is to create this 100-day challenge. It's completely free. I show up every Wednesday. We all get together. We try to get them through this 100 days, and it's going to change not their life, but the lives of their families and everybody they touch. So that's kind of how I got into speaking more.
That's like the perfect segue. You knew I was going to. Yeah, you must have known I was going to ask about 0 to 100. You told us about the talk you had with the business partner in Puerto Rico when you flew down there. So tell us a lot more about 0 to 100, because at first I thought this might be like 75 hard. It looks like you maybe take a lot of things that you learned and you made it into your own baby here.
It's kind of like that. Yeah. But it's like, it's a real life one. It's because the 75-day hard, no one's ever actually going to live a life like that. It does serve its purpose. Like it works, but it's so hard that most people won't do it. Right. So this one, the 0 to 100 day challenge is like this is designed to get people into their body and to look after themselves first, not just today, but forever, because it is a lifestyle that everybody can adopt, right? So to work out, so you're supposed to, these are the rules again. So 100 days straight, work 45-minute workout per day. Now you can miss 2 days, but you have to double up that 45-minute workout on 2 other days. So it builds flexibility. If you're traveling, if something happens in life, you're not going to just fail. You just have to make up for it. You have to eat healthy, clean food, counting macros ideally, right? And you have to not drink alcohol, which is a huge thing that's the hardest part for a lot of people. And then the last thing is just simply preparing for the next day. So making sure that you have your workout in your calendar, making sure that you are thinking about what you're going to eat, and that you get enough sleep. You have enough rest. So whatever that is for you, if it's 7 hours, 8 hours, but you actually are intentional about that, because, like having success in life doesn't happen by chance. It doesn't happen by accident. Becoming a great person doesn't either. Right. And so to do this, it takes intention. And so that's what that last thing is all about. It's really about setting yourself up for success every single day is what we got to do. We're going to win tomorrow by starting today.
Yeah, that's some of the hardest things to deal with is the getting enough rest, enough sleep. And for me, it's the meal prep part. And actually it's most of the eating parts. Like I don't fuel my body with the best things. I do enjoy a good treat here and there, but that is where I would struggle the most, is just making sure, like the meal prep. I know it takes time out of a day to just like to do a whole bunch of meal prep. Like Sundays are usually like our friends' meal prep. And if that's what it takes to set yourself up for success for the rest of the week, would just need to do it.
Yeah.
And that's your intention for the week. And just everything else will hopefully fall into place. But as long as you have the intention, you're good.
Yeah, yeah. You know, like habits. So one of my favorite books is Atomic Habits, right? And so it talks about making good habits easy and making bad habits hard, right? And so it's just like, it's really about stacking the little habits to make the easy one, like the ones that you want, so easy that they're doable. And, you know, and so like for food, like what we do is often, we don't like get too creative, but whatever, if we're going to cook lots.
Yes.
Right. And so there's no point in just cooking for one meal. Just cook for 3 or 4 meals. And so that way you don't have to like spend an entire day, right? You can literally just cook a meal and just cook lots of it. You'll have like one dinner and like 3, 4 lunches, right? And so, you know, and just don't overcomplicate meals, right? Like I think that's another big thing is like you got your chicken, just cook a ton of chicken, right? And then you can eat a ton of taco meat as an example, right? And I think if that's again, you're gonna try to make it so easy that it works, right? In your lifestyle. So, you know, a couple tips.
Outside of drinking, what is one of the hardest things people have stopping, getting rid of when they're doing a challenge like this?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's scheduling. They're scheduling themselves. It's actually the biggest problem is not scheduling their workout, and they think it's just going to happen sometime, like magically, but then their days get derailed, right? Because kids happen and life happens and business happens. All of a sudden, it's like 11 o'clock and you still haven't got your workout in, right? Like
God,
that happens all the time. Yeah. I mean, it's just life happens, right? So I think that's the biggest thing, really, I think. But like, you know, and we often leave the hardest part on our to-do lists, right? Like a to-do list, I hate to-do lists, by the way. Like, because to-do lists, you'll do all the easy shit, you'll do all the things that you like to do, all the fun, you know, right? But you'll leave all the shit on there that sucks. But probably is the most important.
True.
Right? And so how do you get rid of that shit is I always have a to-do list, of course, but I take the things off the to-do list and put it right in the calendar and block time for it.
I like that.
Yeah.
I actually do that to like remind myself to email somebody like over the 4th of July weekend. We just had them like, okay, remember to email Brady and ask him to come on the pod. And I put it on like the 10th or something, right?
Exactly.
I do those. I put those reminders in there because, I have so many things going through my head. 3 months will go by. I'll be like, I should email Brady. Well, I said that 3 months ago. Yeah.
So easy for it to go in one ear, out the other, and then just forget.
Yeah. Yeah. We have list galore of like bucket list things or things we want to do. Maybe we have one for a future guest, and when we think about it, we go to our own Google Docs page that the two of us have created, and we throw it on there. And we're trying to like once a month or so, like have a business meeting, have a podcast meeting. Maybe it's while running, and then we talk after, and we'll like hit those things up. What was next for us on the to-do list or the checklist of things per se, and maybe our vision board that I'm slowly working on. So man, this is so cool. I have one more 0 to 100 question, and you can talk all you want about it, but you mentioned like Wednesday group chats or something. So have you built a community, and tell us a lot about that community and what everyone experiences if they signed up for 0 to 100. And I think you said it was free. Yeah, it's completely free. Yeah. So they can go to 0to100.com and sign up there, and we don't spam the shit out of you. We just remind you that the accountability huddle is Wednesday at 12 Eastern Standard Time. And so it's 30 minutes. It's generally 30 minutes. We have guest speakers every 2 times a month, and the guest speakers will come on and talk about, you know, how to get your kids involved in this, or nutrition, or physiotherapy, or you know, like nerve floss, or like different health and fitness related experts come in and speak to us. And then the other weeks when we're not having guest speakers, then we go around the room and we talk about our wins, because it's really important to, you know, measure ourselves backwards, right? So like looking back and saying, okay, what little wins did we have yesterday? What little wins did we have last week? Because life is extremely unfulfilling when you are only chasing the 100-day,
right? It's so unfulfilling because you're going to hit 100-day and be like, whoop-de-doo. Like, hey,
Well,
what
what
am I
now?
going to do tomorrow? Right. But when you start looking backwards to see how far you've actually come, it's like life is really fulfilling. It's a lot more fulfilling, you know? And so we like to start with that way. And then we just support each other. It's like, what is happening in your world that you need support with? It's like, you know, a lot of people could be, you know, the workouts are getting boring, or I'm finding it hard to get to the gym, right? So we'll talk about what types of workouts, body weight workouts. And that's, again, you know, one of the biggest things for people during, you know, any trying to getting into your body is like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. I don't feel good in the gym. You know, it's like we overcomplicate it. It's just body weight workouts is all you ever really need, you know? And so we'll help with like diet, exercises, diets, meal prep, any hacks, like, you know, we're just ultimately there for each other, trying to get them through this. Right. And yeah, that's what Wednesday is about.
That is great. I love that there is a community aspect behind it, because there's always power in numbers. And if everybody is just trying to do the same thing and celebrate all the little wins, it's an overwhelming feeling just knowing that everybody's in the same boat as you and that you're not alone.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's like, it's growing. I mean, there used to be lots of weeks where there was like three or four of us, but now we have like 48, 50 people on there every single week. It's
That's
pretty
awesome.
amazing. Yeah.
That's a big turnout. Yeah.
Yeah.
How long has this been going on? Like the birth of 0 to 100?
I think so. I officially started like the company. I remember like I started the hats and stuff, and I would print them out, and I would be on podcasts. I would like print them out on a piece of paper and stick it to my forehead. And so that was back in, that was last summer, I guess, in June. And yeah, and then we started the 0 to 100-day challenge about 6 months ago.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so we've had people like go all the way through the 100 days. Like most people lose 25 to 30 pounds, like, you know, change their mindset, change their daily habits. Like and it's not overly complicated. That's the thing, is that you don't need a fancy diet. You just need consistency.
What happens on day 101?
That's the big question. Yeah, that's the big question.
Hopefully
and
you
so,
have the habits to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, and and I mean, the thing about it is, like, for me, since when I started first doing the 75-day hard, it took me 3 years to really get this thing figured out. Right.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was a roller coaster of like, you know, figuring out that the fitness was the thing that actually was making me a better person. The fitness was the thing that kind of got me to stop drinking and stop socializing and got me around the right people. It took me a while to do that. And it sure, just like, you know, a lot of the people that are signing up, it's going to take them time to really figure out what works for them. Right. So, you know, hopefully we have created enough good habits that maybe they'll at least continue to work out 5 days a week, you know, ease up on the booze, right. And eat healthy, right. Hopefully, eventually they'll stop drinking, you know, especially if they're a consistent drinker. Right. You know, having drinks here and there is a different story. But yeah.
I think I saw today that you have a 0 to 100 non-alcoholic beer.
No, but that's a great idea. But like I test, so I thought
I saw that.
I
thought
used
it was
to,
0 to 100.
Well, like I'll drink these NA beers all the time, and I'll do like little like taste testers, and I'll talk about them and tag everybody, because I used to like make videos just dumping out like 20 like big bottles of Grey Goose and shit like that, and it would go like it would hit a lot of people and piss off a lot of people though. Like I would get as many followers as I would unfollow, right? Like hundreds of people, and I thought it was great. But then I was like, okay, we can be a little bit more productive here. And so I do talk a lot about just like how like good non-alcoholic options, because a lot of it for people is the social aspect of drinking, and, you know, like they don't want other people to feel weird and like the peer pressure and stuff. It's like, realistically, there's so many good non-alcoholic options that like I'll have them. I always have them at my house. Like most of my friends do now too. And it's like, if you just pick one of those up, nobody's ever going to know any different. Right.
Yes.
Your body will.
Absolutely. I must have saw that you were on the boat with the non-alcoholic beer. Yeah. For some reason, I thought it said 0 to 100 on it.
There's a marketing idea for you.
But I think, well, when you do it, you got to let us know, and we'll partner for this. It'll be an OTR 0 to 100 non-alcoholic something. Yeah, we'll be. Yeah,
we need to do that.
We can't end this without hearing about one of the world's toughest triathlons. Yeah. And I did the research, and this thing is epic and so cool. And so you go you go big or go home, but you went 70.3, or you went 50 miler, or 70.3, then 50 miler, then 100 miler. And then you went world toughest triathlon with never doing an Ironman, a full Ironman, I think. Am I wrong?
Right. Yeah. So after the 100 miler, my feet were literally like I'm literally just finished. And my coach says, Brady, I can't believe I'm going to ask you this question, but like, what's next?
Got to get it on the calendar.
Yeah. I'm like,
That's immediate.
dude, you know what? I really want to do Ultraman. And so let me back up a little bit. 2 years prior to me actually doing Ultraman, and what really caught my interest with Jesse Itzler, because I always knew that he was a super interesting guy and a super successful entrepreneur, right? He's sold a couple of companies for hundreds of millions. But I saw him do Ultraman. So Ultraman is a 6.2 mile swim, 262 mile bike, and a 52 mile double marathon run. Okay. And I watched
not a big deal.
Yeah, and I watched him and I'm like, dude, there's so much more to this guy. I'm like, there must be something associated to doing hard stuff and being a really cool, successful person, right? And so that's what actually got me inspired to be around him. I got super intentional and became friends with him. But and that's completely possible for everybody listening. I mean, this is just what intention does, right? And so when Chris asked me, so what's next? I'm like, I want to do Ultraman. Right. And this is essentially 2 years later after I saw Jesse and was inspired by Jesse. And he's like, all right. So we started recovering that first month. I was recovering, starting to feel good. I started looking into Ultraman. And it turns out that you have to have completed a full distance Ironman. And
so you have to qualify before you can even do it.
To qualify. Yeah. And it's an invite only.
Oh.
Yeah, so you have to actually apply and qualify. So I sent that to Chris. He's like, well, I guess we know what we're doing next. We got to do an Ironman full distance. And my wife, like 2 weeks later, says, like, when do you ever take no for an answer? Like, why just apply anyway? And I'm like, all right, that's great. It's a very good point. True. So I applied. And like within like 5 days, I get an email, and it was I took a screenshot and I was accepted. And I sent it to my coach, and my coach is like, well, that's good and bad. And I'm like, well, why? He's like, well, it's really good that you got in, but really bad that we only have 3 months to turn you into a cyclist. Right. And I'm like,
a lot of miles. Yeah.
A lot of miles. And I hate biking. But this is another reason why I wanted to do this, because I really don't like the training for Ironmans. And like, I don't love the training for biking. I know it's so boring. And I don't like the training for swimming. And it's just, you can't travel and do that. Like, you have to be where your bike is, and you have to be where a pool is, right? So just very inconvenient thing. But that's again why I did it, because I'm like, hey, I'm gonna test my level of commitment to myself. And if I can do this, I can do anything. And so we started training for that. And so the first day, it's a 3-day event. So the first day is the 6.2 mile swim, and it was 3 laps, 3 2-mile laps. Right. And you have a kayaker beside you. My kayaker was a Navy SEAL, one of my friends. You have to self-crew it too, by the way. So we had 6 people. One of my friends was a Navy SEAL. Another friend from Canada who knew bikes like inside and out. My mom, my daughter, my wife, and another friend, Seema, from California. And so we did the swim, and it was just like, of course, I've never swam that far, right? Swam probably 4 miles before in training. Mm-hmm. So you get out of the swim, and then you have a 90-mile bike. And so I ended up, like Chris, my coach, 3 weeks before the race, says, you can't ride that bike, dude. He's like, bro, you can't. You won't even beat the cutoffs. We had a 12-hour cutoff each day. He's like, you won't make it. So I ordered a brand new bike, had it for 3 weeks, ended up only riding it for 3 days, 3 different times. And so when I got into the water, right, and you're delirious, and you get it, and I had to get on this bike. And you're just crunched over, right? It's in arrow position. And the very first thing is you go up this big hill and you go down a hill. And just, I don't know if you know Florida, but there's no hills in Florida, right? So going down a hill, I'm like, oh my God, riding the brakes. I was just like terrified. I'm like, this is so scary. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But it got worse. So,
good.
Yeah. So I was like only like 17 miles in, and boom, I get a flat tire. Right.
No.
And it was supposed to pour rain that day. So we thought, okay, we better not take a cell phone, because, we're going to be close to the crew. Right. So turns out the crew's nowhere to be fucking found. And so I've got this flat tire. I just started walking down the road because I'm like, I don't know how they're ever going to find me, when they're ever going to find me. So it ended up taking like 40 minutes.
Oh.
And like 3 people passed me. Eventually they got there. We got the thing changed. I was pissed. But we got the thing changed. And then 2 more people passed me. But the good news was that shortly thereafter, it was super windy. And then a torrential downpour. And I'm talking 90 miles. So if we were in Florida, we'd be going 20 miles an hour. But when you have a 20-mile-an-hour headwind, you're going like 7. And it's pouring rain. And it's hailing. Like, it got so shitty. And so just to give you the level of competition with these people, like some of these people have completed 20 Ironmans. There was professional triathletes in the race.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the thing about it is you can rely on your competition's mediocrity. Even at these extreme levels, people wanted to get warm. They were slowing down to put more clothes on. And what our strategy was when it got hard, we push harder. We don't stop. Like we would stop to take a leak, and that was the only thing. But it was like literally pouring rain for the next 6 hours. And it ended up, the first day was 10 hours and like 25 minutes, something like that. And so that was day 1. Day 2 is a 162 mile bike, right? A pretty nice day, a beautiful day, right? Got a flat tire, a couple people passed us. That's fine. You know, I'm just hoping, hopefully it gets harder later is kind of what I said. You know, we just stuck to our strategy that we're just going to not stop, not slow down. And eventually the hills came. There was one hill, it was 8 miles long. 8-mile long hill. It was insane. But like, and there was some super steep stuff before that. And that's when I started passing everybody again. Right. So we just stuck to the strategy. At the end of day 2, because of everybody passed me on day 1, I was still in like 8th place or 9th place. So but the big problem became at the end of day 2, and I determined that we had sight. So in my lungs, it's swimmer-induced pulmonary edema. Yes, apparently I try to kill myself every endurance race I tried to do.
Brady, cut
Common
it
theme
out.
here.
Yeah, Google it. It says you may die. And so what it is essentially like your lungs fill up with fluid. Because I was talking to my SEAL guy. We were having dinner like with our crew. And he's like, I'm like, I feel like I've got pneumonia. I'm like, you could hear the gargling in the lungs. And I called my coach, and he's like, dude, what do you think is going to happen? Like, this is his attitude. And he's like, of course, your body's going through hell and back. And so I have sight. Okay, so, but we still have a 52-mile double marathon run to do the next day. Day 3 comes along. You know, we get running. It's a nice, cool morning. My heart rate was at like 150. I'm like, it's a little high. I'm just thinking to myself, it's going to settle down. You know, it's not a big deal. Well, about 12 miles in, I passed this guy, or I keep catching up to this guy, and the guy's like, keeps on bending over like this, right? And eventually get up to him. I'm like, dude, are you okay? Do you want me to like get a roller for you? I can get like, you know, because I'm thinking his quads are super tight. He's like, no, man. He's like, I just can't breathe. And I'm like, oh shit, dog. I'm like, we've got a blood oxygen tester. I'm going to keep running, and I'm going to send my crew back to help you. So they go grab the blood oxygen, go back to see him. They test him, and then I see a friggin' cop car go by with the ambulance on, or the sirens on. Then I see the police an ambulance go on. Meanwhile, so what they did was his blood oxygen was at 70%, and they called 911. So he had probably sight, the exact same thing. And I didn't really know, obviously, that, but I knew that the ambulance was going by. But at this point, my heart rate was going to 160. And then 170, and I said, okay, well, this is way too early for this shit, so I'm gonna start my run walk, and like this is at like half marathon distance. So I'm gonna run 4 minutes, walk 1. Hopefully that will settle this heart rate. Yep. Well, it didn't. It went to 180, and then it was like 185, and I couldn't get it below 170. And I'm like,
that is extreme for especially doing your run walking.
Yeah,
strategy.
And I'm like,
wow.
I'm like just really short breaths, and I was getting kind of like delirious, a little bit dizzy, like disoriented, and my crew was doing everything they could. They were trying to get me to eat all this stuff, and I'm like, I just couldn't stomach it, or I couldn't chew it, right? And I did eat some gels. Eventually, like my crew just said, so they went and got the blood oxygen tester on me, and Chris is like looking at it, right? And I'm still walking, right? And he's like, he's tested all my fingers. I'm like, oh shit, this isn't good.
Oh no.
Right? No. And he's like, dude, I'll be right back. I'm like, what is it? He's like, you're at 70%. And I'm like, oh gosh, like, you know, and all of the thoughts go through your mind. Like, am I gonna die? And is the ambulance next for me? Right? But he, like, my crew said, like, don't worry, man, we're gonna get you to cross the finish line. You're gonna finish this. Like, and I never once said I was never gonna, like, I never once gave my words power. And so they jammed a bunch of freezies in my mouth. I ate a bunch of gels and got my blood sugar back up. And that's what it was. It was super low blood sugar, which elevates your heart rate, right? It basically limits what your body can do. And once my blood sugar came back up, my heart rate came back down, and I was good to go. And we 4 minutes on, 1 minute off the other 38 miles. And it was insane. But I ended up third place male and qualified for Worlds. Yeah.
Whoa.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Wait, so is that what's next? Worlds?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
It sounds hard, Brady.
Yeah, I know. So what's next is, well, so I did that half Ironman yesterday. Yeah. That was just like something to do. So I haven't really trained for 2 months because we've been building on this island. And so I signed up for the half Ironman just for something to do, just to kind of test, you know, how that would go. And it went really well, actually. It was I think it's the hilliest half Ironman ever, anywhere.
Which one did you do?
Muskoka. Ironman Muskoka. Yeah, it's in Ontario, Canada.
Okay, so I don't even know where that is.
Yeah, it was 3,800 feet of elevation in the bike, which is a fair bit. And
that's a good bit on the for 70.3.
Yeah, and there was 900 of elevation in the run, so it was kind of hilly. But yeah, I ended up PRing that by 10 minutes. Doing a sub 2 hour run, so that was good. But yeah, so I signed up for another 100 is what is the real what's next. So doing Big Bear 100 in California in October.
I feel like I just heard something about this, and I think Andy Glaze might be doing that one, but isn't that like crazy elevation and stuff too?
Yeah, it's got 17,000 feet of elevation.
Oh, you know what? I remember, I think it was this one where he said it's recommended you bring bear spray.
Oh, really?
Something like
that. Which 100-mile isn't Andrew Glaze doing?
You know, that's kind of a point too, but I swear I just saw a video like this morning about it.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
It seems he's like, I got this coming up, and he was reading bits of it, and I was like, that doesn't sound fun to me. Like,
oh, dude,
if I have to fear for my life the whole time, I don't think that's quite what I'm looking for.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm really good at this. This is completely off topic, but so we're built on this island. The other day, somebody boats by and tells us, hey, by the way, you had a bear on the island, and it was cruising by your dock. I'm like, whatever, right? Okay, so we're literally, this was 2 weeks ago. My wife, I wake up in the middle of the night. We sleep in separate rooms because apparently that's what you do when you have a 3-year-old. And, you know,
this is true.
And I'm like, I wake up, and she's like, there's this banging on the wall. And then I'm like, what's going on? She's like, there's a bear inside. So there was, because we don't have power.
Wait, inside?
There were 2 outside, but they're literally, so her phone number mat's here. There's like 3 feet, there's windows opened, 2 coolers sitting on the outside. She hears something wrestling in the coolers. She thought it was a raccoon. So when she started banging, this bear stuck its head up, like looking right at her feet, right? Oh my gosh, it was insane. So I'm well versed. Yeah, I'm well versed in bear tactics, I suppose.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying. So this was like first thing in the morning or something? Like,
well, it was in the middle of the night.
That is not how I would like to be woken up.
No, like 11:30, like you could see this big bear in the moonlight. Like,
oh my gosh.
You know, I was going to suggest next year we podcast again and do it on the island, but I don't think you're selling the island life to Erica right now.
Hey, if I'm not by myself and there's a wall between me and a bear, maybe that's not so bad, but
maybe not open windows.
Yeah.
That's a little scary.
Yeah.
Hey, Brady, that's a great way to transition here, because running into a bear is something we call a code brown, a oh crap moment. And this year we're building a list of the code brown commandments, like thou shall carry bear spray when there's bears around. So some examples is like, thou shall bring wet wipes, or my favorite, this is mine, baby, because we have babies, diaper rash cream cures
Oh,
chafing overnight. It's the best.
that is so true, bro.
And
That
one
is so
person
true.
told us recently, if you take diaper rash cream and mix it with Vaseline, the first poop is free.
Wow, yeah, she's gone. That's
So
hilarious.
listen, we're creating this list of code brown commandments, and we want all our guests to add something to the list.
Oh,
It could be anything though. It could be running, but it also you could tie it into fitness or the scheduling, have something on the calendar. So the floor is yours. I can see the gears turning in your head. What would you like to add? Basically, it's advice to people to avoid a code brown. In your case, you could say to achieve success.
yeah, I think the biggest, yeah. So I think the biggest thing, I mean, I think like there's a few things to achieve success. I mean, I think you have to use a calendar. And so that's from a daily habit thing, but also put big hard things on your damn calendar and use it. Right. I think that's like ultimately that's what you have to do. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. And the one thing that people miss out on is that they don't use their calendar strategically. They think that life is just going to happen to them. Right. And it's like life, having a great, successful, happy life has to happen with intention. And so, I mean, I think that's probably one of the biggest things. And to challenge yourself, right? Like, you know what's really interesting? Like, I don't know if you guys felt this way when like I always remember like I played sports growing up, right?
Mhm.
And like as I became an adult, I was always thinking back at like these days when I was like, oh, I wish I was 18 again. I wish I was 17 again, because that's when we had sport and we had this like, that anxiety and that excitement to like do something, a race, or to like challenge yourself, right? But the thing that everybody needs to understand is like there's way more sport and way more challenge in adult life, right? You just have to get into it. Right. And especially with this running community, the adventure, the excitement in life is just so much better than anything you could have ever experienced up until 18 years old. And I guarantee you can be a way better athlete as an adult. I guarantee you there's no 18-year-olds that are going to run 100 miles because they're not committed enough. Right. We can become such savage people if we truly challenge ourselves as adults. And it's such an exciting way to live life and lead.
I 100% agree with that. I've done more in my adult life than I ever could have imagined when I was 18. So,
yeah.
I got to say, I'm so on board with this calendar talk, because the only time I ever used a calendar before I got a coach was when the guy I trained with for Ironman gave me a sheet that said Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, a 20-week Ironman training program. And that Ironman, that triathlon was my best triathlon ever. And it was the full, where the other ones, I kind of just thought I could do it on my own. And maybe the swim was a struggle, or maybe the run. When I followed a calendar, it worked. And I just got a run coach about 8, 9, 10 months ago. And the best part is she gives me a calendar. So shout out Nicole. I have a calendar, and maybe I run a little more than what she told me to. That's kind of a common theme. Maybe I don't run the pace she tells me to run when she says, slow down, dude. But I know on Monday I'm running, and I know on Tuesday I'm doing strength training, and on Wednesday I know I'm going to go for a run. The calendar's the best part. I have a calendar. I do it. And I just did a race. I have nothing on my calendar tonight. I'm going to sign up for my next marathon because the price goes up tomorrow. But
yeah, you get in there.
But I'm going to get it on the calendar.
Yeah,
November 10th. I'm coming for you, Manchester.
Good for you.
Let's go.
That's awesome. Well, that was my big question. Erica has one more big question for you. This will get the gears ready again in your head. It's my favorite.
I'm excited to see what you're gonna choose. So we have ourselves an awesome Spotify playlist, and we like to invite our guests to add a song to it. So is there anything that just pumps you up, gets you motivated, that you would like to add to the list?
Do you know what? Music for me is so interesting because oftentimes, like, especially when I'm running, it's like I don't need anything that's overly motivating, because I find if it's motivational and the song changes, then you lose motivation.
Right. And I mean, you did that whole 100 without any music whatsoever. Oh,
yeah. And I would honestly like to the listeners, like getting used to like running with music, even just low. So it's more of just like entertainment versus motivation is really important. So for me, like I listen to a lot of country. So, yeah, like, Morgan Wallen, Luke Combs, like that type of music is what I personally listen to. Like honestly, just country a lot of times. So, sometimes I'll listen to like more upbeat music if I can find a good track, but it's often like there's just ends up being a lot of like, I don't know.
Well, how
Like,
about which one makes you want to take a dance break and
okay.
let some stress out or something?
You know what? Honestly, this isn't one of the greatest songs. Till You Can't. This is a country song
All right.
because
That
it talks
seems
about
very on brand for you. Till you
till
can't.
you can't. It's like
Cody Johnson.
Cody Johnson, great song. It's just like a great song to think about during life because
I love it.
we take all this shit for granted till you can't, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That is just what we were looking for. Like this is exactly what
this
you understood the assignment.
That's a banger country song.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, this was so much fun, man. This was so much fun. I'll do a little teaser. You said earlier, what 100 miler does Andy Glaze not do? We'll ask him next week.
Oh, do you have Andy Glaze coming on here next week?
Yes. Well, we're recording next week. It might drop a few weeks after yours because we have a special.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm before Andy Glaze. Up here. Let him know. This guy on Instagram just said that about you. You should go follow him.
Well, the best part is we're going to record with him before this drops. So if anything happens, I'll just edit it out.
Oh, that's great.
But for those of you who stuck around to listen to Brady this whole time, you got the little teaser. In a couple of weeks, you're going to hear from Andy. So we're pretty excited for that. We've had some cool people. This has been a fun journey we've been on. I think I was telling you earlier, like we're still working on our background, our podcast background, 100+ episodes. We're building the brand. We got the quality product. We're growing. You're growing 0 to 100. It's so cool to see. You're doing hard shit all the time. I love it. I'm enjoying this whole Erica. The other day, he had a run. I think you had to do a half a marathon distance run. He ran in little circles around his beach.
around my house because I didn't want to go to because it was pouring rain, right? I'm like, I'm not gonna go to land. But anyway,
you didn't want to take the boat.
You still got the miles in.
It's
and
0.09 of a mile per lap.
Yes.
It's getting it done. I mean, what can you say?
Yeah. It's just like another level of psychoness, I suppose.
Well, goalies, man. Goalies.
Yeah, the goalie coming. That was clack. You must have dug deep to get that much.
I enjoy listening to podcasts. I have my favorites, but I did it all in the last like 48 hours too, man. I just do the dishes, Google your name on Spotify, play what you've done, get some stuff. Cool. I've enjoyed the real estate podcasts that you've done. And like I said, like, man, I feel like you're speaking to me, like you're doing one of your talks. And I'm like, this is really cool. So I'm super happy that you reached out to us during your road trip, towing a boat from Florida to Canada. Are you going to tow the boat back to Florida after this 2 months? Yeah, the big one. So we towed 2 down. The little one that I was towing down at that point, we're going to leave here. The big one we're going to take back. We're going to take back because that's cool. Where in Florida, by the way? That's my last question.
Cape Coral, Florida.
All right, cool. Well, if we're ever down there, we know you're there for 10 months.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'll be honest, though. I want to check out the island. Yeah. When the cabin's done. Yeah, you got to have
it'll have power tomorrow.
Some AC first.
Yeah, it'll have power Wednesday. Sorry, Wednesday. It's going to have power. So honestly, you guys are welcome. Oh, August 17th. You guys seriously should come. I've organized a marathon run on Bozalai Island. They have tons of trails. And this is like a Jesse Itzler. This is what I'm doing. This is going to be a yearly invite only. And I've got permission to run a marathon or half marathon, whatever we want. We're going to have 50 people. And it's like, just like the best people with the funnest, like, we're going to run a marathon.
That sounds amazing.
Are you going to do this every year or
every year?
Okay.
Yeah.
He's like, catch me next
maybe
year.
Just this year.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to pull something off here.
This is the first annual.
That's obviously got to be near where you are.
Yeah, it's right across from us. Yeah, boat access.
Yeah, and I know you're the boat taxi. So
yeah, that's great. I got you.
All right, man. We'll talk more. We'll talk more for sure. Dude, this is so cool. Thank you, Erica. You got anything to say?
I just think you are awesome. I love that you just are out there motivating people while doing epic shit yourself. And I'm going to keep following along with you, especially now that I know you're doing the Big Bear one. Is it Big Bear? What's it called?
Yeah, Big Bear. Yeah.
Big Bear.
Yeah.
Think
Big Bear
so.
100.
So
Big
epic.
Bear 100.
We're going to be following
love it.
along, man. If anything epic happens, let us know. Come on. We'll do a quick hit.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it. Yeah,
You're
there'll
the
be
man.
something nasty that happens. You know it.
Yes.
It's just the way it works.
Yes. I'll have all my teeth back by then.
No, you'll have to pop one out then. Like, just get a temporary one so you can like pop it out once in a while.
Yeah. No, totally.
Well, it was great to chat with both of you guys. This has been awesome.
Thank you
The
so much,
pleasure's
man.
been ours.
Yeah, you
Guys,
got it.
I hope you really enjoyed that. Brady McDonald on the On the Runs podcast. That was a lot of fun. Thanks, man.
All right. Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you too.